There's a celebrated story in your years at Eureka College about one of your college football teammates, William Burkhart, was a black member of the team.
Yes.
And he couldn't get into a hotel where the whole team was supposed to stay, so you took him to your home in Dixon, Illinois, where he was immediately put up with another black teammate. People who look at that story say, well, Ronald Reagan seemed to be more sensitive about those kinds of things then than he has been as the President of the United States, and maybe it's because he bumped up against them in a first-hand way back in Eureka.
That whole thing has been the hardest burden, I think, of all that I have borne here, is that idea that I am not as sensitive and that somehow I am discriminating and so forth. And it is not true. That household I was raised in, my mother and father, the thing my brother and I grew up knowing was that there was no greater sin than prejudice or discrimination. And this was back in the days when there was discrimination generally. And in Eureka College, yes, what happened was that we had to stay overnight in our hometown on a way, the bus, load of players on a way to a Saturday game. And I took the coach in, introduced him to the manager of the hotel, and he said that he would take everybody but those two. Well, our coach, Mac, he said, well, we'll sleep in the bus. And he turned to, because the man had said also that no other hotel would either. There weren't many hotels in that little town. And we started out, and I told Mac, I said, we can't do that. I said, if they'll know what the reason is and be embarrassed. Well, he said, what can we do? When he had told me that I couldn't stay at home, even though I had a home there. And I said, well, why don't we just say there isn't enough room for everybody? And you put me and the two fellows in a cab and we'll go home. He was writing of the resentment that was within him about his situation. And it's a fascinating book.
Mr. President, you're about to go off into retirement. Richard Nixon studies international affairs a lot these days. Gerald Ford works on this commission for the new presidency and plays a lot of golf and does a lot of speaking. Jimmy Carter pursues his interest at the Carter Library and in terms of the Middle East and the problems of the inner cities.
Going back out on the mashed potato circuit and trying to arouse the public to demand some changes, which it is their right to demand. The line item veto for a president, the balanced budget amendment that most of the states have, but the federal government doesn't have. Thomas Jefferson called attention to that. And